he was an American icon. It's been argued by many a scholar that David Earl McDonald was quite possibly the most talented human being alive. From his extraordinary childhood to his worldly influential adulthood, we'll take a look at the life and times of David McDonald on tonight's episode of Legends. Dave McDonald was born in 1968, the only child of Paul McCartney and a miniature donkey. He was raised on the poverty-stricken streets of the Appalachian mountain town Trammell, Virginia. Okay, he was raised in Belleville, Michigan, but we're running on a pretty tight budget here. By the time Dave was 3 years old, he had already conquered the last living Indian tribes in his neighborhood, discovered his acute fascination with exhibitionism and small animals, and was molested repeatedly by his Uncle Buford. By the time he was 6, he solidified a controversial relationship with TV's Wonder Woman, but strides ahead for his age, fell to temptation and began a torrid affair with then supermodel Alexis Summer.
When I heard about this Alexis Summer thing, I just couldn't believe it, because she's from the right side of the tracks, and everybody in the community was like acting like he was this angel and all prim and proper, but that's not the Dave that I know. I couldn't keep him off the drugs. I couldn't keep him away from the 8-year-old schoolgirls, the small and large animals, stealing cars, breaking into houses, exposing himself to tourists, all of that. It was just crazy. I saw a side of Dave McDonald that nobody else did, and who got blamed for it? I did.
If the allegations were true, the public was none the wiser. His dealings with Alexis Summer would end by age 11, and 1980 would prove to be a milestone year in the young life of Dave McDonald. In early April, he was approached by Timothy Gaines, a world-renowned fashion model scout who helped land him his first job with Montgomery Ward. Merely 2 months later, while tinkering in his bedroom, he invented the crappy plastic Christmas bow and sold the idea, making him his first million just after his 12th birthday. The crappy plastic Christmas bow empire and illustrious modeling career attracted a new female companion, animal rights activist and German teen adult film star Crystal Springs. Her uninhibited antics intrigued young Dave, building the foundation for his extremely confusing and somewhat disturbing teen years. Tonight's episode of Legends is brought to you by Chastity Insurance Group, Incorporated. Since 1934, Doctors Care has held true that our white citizens need quality medical care from a knowledgeable fellow Caucasian. We understand it's important to you to receive care from a white doctor. We recognize that your health care is too important to place in the hands of some wetback beaner, uppity porch monkey, or cow-worshipping towelhead. The competence and expertise of a white doctor, not some cracked-out jigaboo. We believe in white power at Doctors Care, and it shows. See the professionals at Doctors Care, a whites-only establishment. The year was 1984. Michael Jackson topped the charts. Indiana Jones was a box office hit. President Reagan wanted another 4 years. And Dave McDonald wanted to seek his fortune in Southern California. He ended up on the set of NBC's The Facts of Life as a key grip, and according to those on the set, took a fancy to 16-year-old star Mindy Cohn. They were soon seen together everywhere, and it looked like a match made in heaven, but others didn't see it that way. Hand, foot, and elbow model for The Facts of Life, Samantha Sweetknockers.
I first met Dave when I was working as a hand, foot, and elbow model on the Facts of Life set. Turns out, the sleazeball had this thing for elbows. It was so weird. Everywhere I went, he was always finding reasons to brush up against me and brush my elbows. One time I even caught him trying to take pictures. My elbows. I don't know what he was going to do with them. I don't ever want to know.
Less than a year later, Mindy Cohn gave birth to David McDonald's son.
He nailed the whole cast of The Facts of Life. It was Tootie, Blair, Joe, Mrs. Garrett, and even the little blonde-haired boy that came in during the third season. I've only seen him twice in my whole life. Both times he was drunk. Me and my mom have always lived in poverty, and he never tried to send us any money. And that's what really got me, because he's so wealthy and famous all these years, and we never seen one dime. He's not my father. I don't care who says what.
It was now 1985, and even though just a junior in high school, Dave used his finances and prowess to land the lead role in the Robert Zemeckis film Back to the Future. It was then that he was first enticed by the opportunities of adult films, where he met Mexican porn mogul Juarez Felipe Besemi Berga III. His first and little-known adult film was entitled Yes, I Touched Her Naughty Parts. It did not do well. And even though he'd tried his hardest, by early 1986, Dave and Felipe had parted company. Shortly after the breakup, Dave decided he may have better luck in another city. He hopped a plane and flew to Las Vegas. He convinced the owner of the Mirage to let him sing 3 days a week as the illegitimate son of Robert Goulet. And the rest of the week, he managed Smack Nasty's, a well-known brothel and popular hangout for European immigrants. Dave's star exotic dancer talent, Olga Goodentight.
Den anderen Tag, da hat er sich mal bequemt, mich anzurufen, weil, wie gesagt, er bei mir seine Papiere liegen lassen hatte. Und er hat mir nichts geschickt, kein Geld oder sowas. Ich musste die alle alleine aufziehen. Das war die erste Fünflingsgeburt in Deutschland gewesen. Der Typ, der ist unmöglich. Ich meine, Dave McDonald, he tried to touch my naughty parts.
And to make matters even worse, Dave's unintelligible, repulsive choices and exotic dancer hiring practices resulted in a very poor clientele turnout, made up of mostly the homeless, inner-city blacks, Hugh Grant, Charlie Sheen, and Robert Downey Jr. On April 7, 1987, Smack Nasty's folded, and Dave McDonald left Las Vegas and headed home.
Tonight on an all-new Painter Creek.
I knew this guy back in 1952 that bought a boat down at Green Springs down there on 75 in Abington. Best boat he ever had.
What did she say? She said I had dry cornbread and she ain't coming to my house to eat no more.
Rex, I found some magazines in our son's bedroom and I think our son is gay.
What?
Painter Creek, tonight at 7 on the all-new WB.
My penis, it's got me through some very hard times. The penis can't be ignored.
I do not discriminate against any penis.
I'm proud of my penis.
The penis is very important. I'm a big fan of the penis.
Don't be afraid of the penis. Don't be afraid of the penis. The penis. Don't be afraid of the penis.
We now return to legends and more of the David McDonald story. It was now early 1987, and Dave McDonald headed back to Belleville to seek a helping hand from his now reluctant foster parents, John and Peggy Sanders.
He went out to Las Vegas. He took all of his money out there. He bought drugs, partied down all weekend, or a week, or however long he was out there. And then he comes back and he ain't got the a pot to pee in or one to throw it at, and he wants Daddy to put up the money so he can go back to working, and yeah, I couldn't. I didn't have it to give him. It hurts so much I don't even want to talk about it.
I thought I knew Dave. I mean, we were neighbors, had him over for dinner, he dated my daughter. I let him use my weed eater, a $150 John Deere weed eater, and I never have gotten the damn thing back. But worst of all, and this is what broke the camel's back, I was out backyard on my hands and knees with a pocket knife, trimming around the fence because I don't have a weed eater anymore. And there's Dave in the backyard with little Dottie. Dottie is the sweetest 4-year-old little Pomeranian. We just love her, think of her as a member of the family, and this guy's trying to hump her. I was sickened, absolutely sickened, and Dottie hasn't been the same since.
I need to tell you how many times I had to go down to downtown Detroit and get him out of jail.
Taking toothbrushes at one time, if you remember.
Yeah.
Realizing his well had run dry with the Sanders and his neighbor, he spent over 3 weeks consuming lots of Doritos and chronically masturbating. Finally, on March 1st, came the phone call he'd been waiting for. A producer from MGM Records had seen his act in Vegas and invited Dave to New York City for a recording contract and $1 million book deal. The album was entitled Funky Bud Lovin', and the single My Baby Don't Wear No Panties became a controversial yet #1 hit nationwide.
Well, my baby don't wear no panties. Ask me how I know. How do you know? How do you know? I said my baby don't wear no panties.
And although his struggle with cocaine and heroin continued, Dave seemed to be on top again until that faithful day, July 4th, 1988.
Today, a missing persons report was filed in New York City on the apparent disappearance of film actor, porn star, drug addict, and blues artist David McDonald. Those close to Dave McDonald say he's been missing for nearly 3 days. The nation continues to watch, wait, search, and hope.
But the wait would prove to be a long one. 5 years passed by slowly. Then something significant happened in April of 1993.
For the last 15 minutes, we've watched this M60 vehicle, this combat engineering vehicle, make large holes in the side of this building and pump tear gas in there. At times, as you well know, tear gas can be incendiary, and apparently this is what's happened. And it looks like now we have a very large-scale fire breaking out on what must be the south side, right near the front side of this building. These are some amazing pictures here. A fire has broken out.
David Koresh was originally our leader. He was supposed to be the divine one. But we found out later when Dave McDonald came in that it was really him. He was going to show us the light, and he was the true leader. And we just knew that we would never be able to live without him.
On April 19, 1993, Dave McDonald was found naked and trembling outside a Tasty Freeze 3 miles west of Waco, Texas. He was picked up and sent to Southeast Psychiatric Hospital in Athens, Ohio. But after only 2 years in the facility, little did the peaceful town of Athens know that the now ruthless Dave McDonald was devising a detailed escape plan. But it would turn out that he didn't have to. On March 2, 1995, Travis Carter Motorsports, a well-established NASCAR Winston Cup team just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, was trying to reach a replacement driver for the recently syphilis-inflicted Jimmy Spencer. They dialed the hospital by mistake, and pretending to be the driver they were looking for, Dave walked out of the hospital and flew to Charlotte. Dave played the game well, and the entire NASCAR community never knew the difference. Soon, he was the star driver of the number 23 Winston Ford Taurus. Looks like Dave McDonald can't keep the car on the bottom of the racetrack, sliding up the hill. Looks like Jeff Burton's going to be able to go ahead and make it by. But Dave McDonald will get right back after it. What a star talent, Dave McDonald in the number 23 Winston Ford Taurus. But that venture, too, would not last long. After Dave won the fall bush race at Richmond later in the year, news broke of women found murdered after Winston Cup races.
Murdered women?
Uh-huh.
How many of them?
3 of them.
Were they naked?
Just let me finish, okay?
Oh, sorry.
The investigation began to center around one suspect, David McDonald. When his fingerprints and empty packets of pizza rolls were found on and near the bodies, he was taken into custody. Even after hiring Johnny Cochran as his defense attorney, it took a Richmond, Virginia jury only 15 minutes to find David McDonald guilty of 3 counts of premeditated murder. He's now somebody's bitch in a Virginia federal penitentiary.
No, his sentence is that he's going to be in prison till he's an elderly man. And a victim may feel, well, you know, rather than having to relive the horror of the attack, it's not going to add anything significant to his punishment.
I still think there's other people, and he's not really telling us everything. He's just telling us enough to get us off his back.
You know, he said there was no way you could have known. There was nothing to see. You know, I kept it secret.
I have since had conversations with people who knew him, grew up with him, hung out with him, and he had everybody completely buffaloed about his activities.
This is a secret part of their life that they learn to keep very compartmentalized and removed from the rest of their life.
He needs to be taken out and horsewhipped. I tried everything under the sun to get through to that boy, and there's just no way.
Dave McDonald is scheduled to die by being released into Harlem with the phrase "I hate niggers" tattooed prominently on his forehead in 2003.